That's what I yelled. Not it. Not it.
No, not it. So I was like, Jonah, dear, will you get the baby?
Okay, so then you had a change of heart, and now you were like,
Yeah.
okay, Uvita's
Yeah.
not for me either.
Yeah, so I was done. I was like, this was like 2 days before he was supposed to go on his own with the children to San Diego. And this whole thing happens. And I was like, I'm coming. I'm going. I'm not staying here. No vehicle on the other side of this creek. I'm completely traumatized. Like, saw my life flash before my eyes. And it was interesting. We were in an interesting place in our lives where we were like kind of on a verge of separation. Things were not lining up so super well with us. And we're like, that was part of the reason why he was going to go by himself, right? And so then I'm like, no, I'm jumping aboard that ship. Like, and he's like, if you just wanted to do that, you could have just told me. You didn't need to sink our vehicle, And I'm like, that wasn't the plan, but I guess that's what I get for, yeah. Anyway, so I chose to do it the hard way, and so we went and we left for like a year and a half. And we traveled all over. We were trying to see if there's anywhere else we'd rather live. So we traveled all through the United States and Oregon and Washington and came up to Canada where my family's from and, spent lots of time in Mexico. We lived in San Miguel de Allende for 9 months because we heard such great things about there. It was great, but again, nothing is perfect. Is right. What I learned after that. There's no such thing that you're just going to go and have this like brand new life that you love and there's not going to be any hardship. Like there's no such thing. And if you go to a foreign country, guess what? The hards are going to be even harder. They're not going to be easier. So the hards were harder. And we ended up traveling around and kind of feeling stuck more than anything else. And seeing that, we don't really want a life in any of these places for the future. And then we had our wedding, which was beautiful. So, 2 babies, then a wedding.
We reconciled away from, we might separate.
Yeah, definitely. Like came back together, reconciled, recommitted to one another. He really showed up for me that day and moving forward from that. And I think that was a big part of it. That was like showing me, you need this man around. Like you actually do love him and he loves you. You just need to work some shit out. And so we did. So after the wedding, about a month after the wedding, I'm pretty sure my first ovulation after the wedding, I got pregnant again. Then, it became an emergency of where are we going to have this baby? Like now there's a timeline. Now we have to have a home within 9 months. Like, what are we going to do? So there was a lot of like disbelief at first and all this kind of stuff. And then we're like, kept sitting with it. And the only thing that made sense to me was to come back to Costa Rica because we've had 2 babies there. And, I wanted a free birth at that time. And I knew what I needed to do and how to do it. And I felt like that was going to be my decision. Of course, I was going to go back to Costa Rica where my placentas were still waiting with trees on top of them growing. And so we came back. But it was so different because, again, we came back to Vida, where we left because we weren't super happy.
Yeah, what year was this?
This was 2020. This was this year, 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, because my daughter's only 6 months right now.
Okay, yeah.
So we got back to the house and I was like, oh, yay, we're back. And he's like, oh, yay, we're back. So he hated it still. Like it hasn't shifted for him. And so that became a really big challenge because I felt like, again, I was pushing us to be in this place where we had to leave from because he was unhappy.
Right.
So then life had other plans for us because all of a sudden I'm like wanting a free birth and this and this. And then I start bleeding and I'm like, what's going on? Like, I'm not supposed to be bleeding right now. And it got more and more intense. So we went and we got an ultrasound finally, because I was not planning on doing that. But we did. And so what we realized was my placenta was actually underneath my baby, which is called placenta previa. And it had full placenta previa, meaning that the exit was completely blocked. And so basically every doctor just said, you have to have a C-section. There's no other way. If your baby comes out, there's no way for it to come out. It has to go through the placenta, which is impossible. If it does go through the placenta, then that's its lifeline, and it loses, its lifeline, its oxygen, it's everything. And of course, in the olden days, before cesareans, like this is a major thing of how women and baby died.
Yeah.
So they're like, don't take it lightly. And I'm like, no, I'm going to have my free birth. It's going to be all right. I'm going to meditate. And I did all the possible things to try to move it. But, life sometimes has other plans for us. So when I was 36 weeks exactly, it was like a really intense bleed that I had. And I was so shaken, like it was crazy amount of blood. I was like, whoa, we need to go to the hospital. And so what we ended up doing actually is we moved up to Tinamastes to stay closer to the hospital at that time when we realized that I was starting to bleed. Thankfully, Jonah's dad has a hotel up there. And so we ended up living at the hotel. There's also apartments and casitas. We were in the apartments. And so we lived in the apartments just so that we're like 20 minutes away from the hospital instead of like an hour, which to us felt a lot better. So that day,
or if the roads are cleared, if somebody didn't break down, if a truck didn't have a flat tire, I mean, that road that goes up there is just, the switchback. I would be so nervous if I lived down there and had to get up there in a timely manner.
Totally. And so that's what we realized. We realized we needed to stay closer and we needed the extra help because we had caretakers at the property and all this stuff. And my grandpa was staying there. And so we had way more support. So instead of being all alone in the jungle, in fear, what will happen? Will my placenta abrupt before my baby comes out? Am I going to die? We decided to play it a little bit safer and go up the mountain and live in Tinamastes. And all of a sudden, Jonah, even though that it was like obviously a very stressful time, as you can imagine, I'm on bed rest completely. But Jonah started relaxing a little bit. And all of a sudden he's like, not so against Costa Rica, I'm noticing. And he's like, starting to groove a little bit more. And, we've got support and family, so we don't feel all alone in the jungle, as I said. And so things started to feel better. And then when I was 36 weeks, like I said, that day, lots of blood came. So I had to go up to the hospital and came up. And that's a long story of its own. We don't need to go into there, but basically ended up with having to get rushed by the ambulance to the public hospital because that's where they have the NICUs in case of, because I am 36 weeks, not fully due yet. So they ended up rushing me and it's like blood everywhere. It was absolutely crazy and had an emergency C-section. And then woke up, still didn't know the gender of the baby because we wanted a surprise. So I wake up and I'm like, where's my baby? What's going on? So cold because the operational room is like crazy cold and all this kind of stuff. And the hospital was really like, that was one of the toughest experiences of my entire life. Just not knowing and then just not agreeing with the whole system, obviously, stepping in and then being in it like without a choice for basically 5 days, waiting for my baby to be, for them to say, okay, that's fine. Like you can leave now. But yeah, there was no consent for things. Things happened that I did not want happening, that I was completely against. Like, she got vaccinated before I even met her. And so, yeah, it was just a lot. And 5 days later, finally, we were out of there and I was like, whew, let's not do that again.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I think a lot of people don't know, but I didn't know that that's the law in Costa Rica, that if you have a hospital birth, that baby does not leave before it's vaccinated. That baby belongs to Costa Rica, not to you.
Totally. They view every baby born in Costa Rica as Costa Rica property. Like that is the legislation. That's what's written down. And so they will act as their caretakers and make the decision as the caretaker for the child instead of the parent. And so they believe that vaccination is absolutely necessary and you're supposed to get 3 in time of birth. And I'm saying 3 because I'm counting the vitamin K shot. Some people don't count that. But basically they get their hepatitis B because babies are so sexually active, of course. And even with a test from the mother saying the mother is a negative, which I had a hepatitis B reading, and like I had the paper saying I'm not, and there's no exposure to hepatitis B, they still felt that she needed it. And there's another one, tuberculosis, I believe, is the one. And so I think there's a couple of different things that they vaccinate for with the tuberculosis shot. I think it's a mix of 3, but I can't remember exactly what they are. And so those are the 3. So there's the K shot, the hepatitis B, and the tuberculosis with the other things. And this all happens with consent not necessary, questions not necessary. They just do it. It's part of their just protocol. Even with preemies, my daughter was...
You wipe the baby up, clean the baby, do the thing, put a tag on it, give it a immunization, put it in the blanket, throw in the thing.
Yeah, basically. And it doesn't matter if they're preemies, if they need the NICU, none of that matters. Like they will still perform this no matter what. And if you're one of those mamas who's like, well, I want a more natural birth, maybe I'll go to a private hospital. The private hospitals, what they'll do is they'll escort you to the public hospital, thankfully the next day, not day of, but the next day usually they'll escort you. Well, not the mother, usually just the baby and the father will get escorted, whether it be an ambulance or, you know, on foot or whatever, but escorted to the hospital to make sure that you get the vaccines before anyone's released.
Interesting. So yeah. I know this was a concern and is a desire for you to not have that done. And so then when it was done and it was out of your control, what steps did you take, like health-wise, to make yourself feel better as a mom? Like, I'm doing everything I can to counteract whatever poisons, heavy metals, whatever it is that, you know, that we don't know that gets put into vaccines.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it was the biggest process was to just forgive myself. Like that was because I had a lot of blame. I had a lot of blame on myself being like, was it me who caused this because we were traveling so much and I was so ungrounded and, you know, me. It was like all this conversation of how I didn't do the right thing. And like the first step to healing was like just releasing that and, you know, saying, this is the way Great Spirit wanted it. This is the way my baby chose. I don't know why, but obviously it's part of her mission. And so I need to respect that. I need to respect nature. And I need to be grateful that I didn't die because that's where it was headed. Like I lost more than half my blood. Like they gave me 2 huge transfusions, you know, like
respect based on like, this thing is an annoyance and I didn't want it, blah, blah, blah. Or I could have died over here.
Right.
Like, the perspective is a little bit easier sometimes in hindsight.
Right. So, I mean, the scale obviously tipped. And so I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. Forgiveness needs to be given to me, to my husband, to my baby for choosing, like for everybody. So that was the very first step of healing. And then after I was able to sit with that and grieve and get through all that, I was, you know, looking for ways to detox her and all this. And so I actually met up with my acupuncturist who had some solutions, some Chinese medicine herbs that she recommended. So we did that 6 months later when she was like, you know, when I felt like it was the right time. But we had an ointment, kind of not an ointment, but like the herbs that she made, we put it on her physically. And we also gave her some internally. And it was interesting because she said to me, like, you'll know it works when you have the craziest poop ever. And so we're like, okay. So each time I'm like, is this it? This looks normal. Is this it? This looks normal. And then one day I remember like walking into the nursery and there was just like this crazy smell. And I just backed out and I was like, no, I'm just going to get Jonah.
That's what I yelled. Not it.
No, not it. So I was like, Jonah, dear, will you get the baby?
I love it, Jonah.
Yeah. And he said, I mean, this is his 4th child at this point because he already had one before. And he said it was like the gnarliest, like the craziest poop he's ever dealt with. Like just it stank in my nursery for like, I don't know how long. Like we saged, we did this, we did that. It was just the amount that came out and everything. It was just crazy. So I think we got things out, and also externally, things came out as well. So I felt complete.
Good.
There's only so much we can do, right? And then other than just send love and healing to her. Like,
yeah, it's
you
just
know,
your
and
job to do your best, and go, this was my best,
yeah,
and although my best falls short of what I thought it should be, it was my best in that situation. It was the best I could do to save her life, to save my life. And this was the ramifications. And then now I can go, how can I do my best now after the fact and fix as much as I can?
totally. And she also shattered a lot of beliefs for me. Like I thought that that it would be a completely different baby. And she's actually a really amazing baby. She's super healthy. She's happy. She's all the things still. So,
and it's so funny that you had that, because I know that I was immunized as a child, and I'm sure you probably were too. And
of course,
we're normalish. We're normalish on some spectrum. I mean, I know that there are plenty of people that took their kids for their 18-month shots, and the children they got on the other side of that were different children. Like that was whatever was in that 18-month shot. Like they were totally verbal, great kids, eye contact, everything, learning on a great scale, and then went totally nonverbal. And all of these things happen. So like I have friends of mine that have that has happened too. As a matter of fact, I have a grandson that's 2.5. And like, I mean, I had all of the same concerns whenever, just hook, line, and sinker, just, oh, it's time to go get your shots. Oh, it's time for a 6-week shot. So it's time for the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and, I can't enforce my beliefs on anyone, or
right.
even my suspicions on anyone. Like as a parent, they have to come to terms with that stuff themselves and go, okay, do I want to be ostracized from, society because I don't want to be part of this, or I believe this right here. But I mean, even I don't even know if I want to broach that subject. I probably don't. But even like I don't even get a flu shot. Like I
Right.
don't understand the super hype, like in my text messages, my pharmacy, and my email, and everything that I get, because that's constantly like, come in and get your flu shot, blah 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 blah. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go get my flu shot. I haven't had the flu in so long. I don't even know what the point is of why that I would do this. Now, like if you're over 60, come and get your pneumonia shot, come and get this. And it's like, I just don't understand the push for it myself personally. Like, even like in 8th grade, like if they didn't think my kids had their shots in 8th grade to be able to go into high school, like they couldn't go back to school the next day until XYZ. Well, now people are like, great, fine, kick them out of school. I don't like what you're teaching them anyways. So let's just,
Exactly.
and you don't get to be the choice of my kids' health as well as this. So I know it's a passionate topic, and I know there's people on both sides of the battle and the conversation. And everyone has valid points, right? I think it comes down to a choice for yourself. And if people will respect that choice comes down to yourself, for yourself and your kids and your family, and not the, oh great, you're not going to get your kids immunized, now you're going to subject my kids to whatever diseases your little rat children bring into the world. It's kind of the tone of voice that comes. It's almost along the lines of the shame that was being handed out whenever adults decided to not get the COVID vaccine, right?
Yep.
Great, you don't care if my grandma dies because you want to be unvaccinated, blah blah blah, right? And they just lined up for some untested bunch of chemicals to be shot into your arm and whatever. And the shame of it was like, oh great, now you're at fault if I get sick. No, I'm not. I'm going to make my own health choices. So it's wildly debated, and it'll be interesting in the United States to see, with a change in our administration, how that affects vaccinations, because I know that's on the agenda. And I think that we've been told lies for a long, long time. And I think that we're getting ready to, with RFK Jr., I think we're getting ready to have some stuff peeled off. And believe it or don't believe it. I mean, everyone wants to go, believe in the science, believe in the science. Oh, we're not believing in the science. We're believing in the mad scientists. That's the
paid.
That's the shit we're believing. Yeah. And so, I'm a boomer. And so like, I'm not like some new age, blah, blah. But I do believe the health part of it is so important to all of us. Like if we look at America as a whole, as to how sick our country is, and then we just want to keep making the same decisions.
Right.
And
doesn't make sense.
6. Yeah. It's like, what do you think is going to fix it? What do you think is going to fix it? Doing the same fucking thing is going to fix it. I mean, make one change today that's different than you did yesterday on a path and do some research yourself. Like if you're researching NAD or you're researching anything that can help with your body chemistry or how you process carbs differently than I process carbs. Should I be eating this, right? And if I shouldn't, like why do I get a headache every day? Maybe it's because something that I'm eating is toxic to me, and it's not toxic as far as put out into the world, but for my DNA, it's toxicity.
Doesn't match.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And so if people start learning about themselves and going, this is what's right for me. And I don't mean to be rude, and I don't mean to go.
It's not universal.
I don't mean to go like, I don't care about you, but honest to God, we're all selfish human beings walking around here going, I have got to make a decision that's right for me and my family. You make the you want for you and your family. I'm not going to try and convince you that yours is right or yours is wrong. You go make the one that you have decided for your family, but this is one I'm making, and it really is none of your business.
Totally. And the last thing I want to say about the subject is what other families need to be aware of as well, that when they come to Costa Rica, they need to be aware of that vaccines in Costa Rica are a really, really, really big deal. And a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, Costa Rica, that sounds wonderful. Like, it's one of the most immunized countries, and it is so pushy about that. Again, like maybe in the States and Canada, you're used to this, but you can't get into schools without it. Public schools, they're private schools, when you have like-minded private schools, and there's exceptions, but public schools, no, if you get yourself into the hospital, into the public hospital for any reason, your children, they will not release them without the vaccines. Like if they're not up to date, even if you're from a different country, even if you have a different passport, that's not Costa Rican. If you're in a public hospital, again, they feel like this is absolutely what needs to be done, and they will give you the hardest of times. And then they, if they do release you without it, you're really lucky. They will ask for proof to know that you are up to date, your kids are up to date. And if you're not able to present them the proof, you will have a hard time leaving that hospital. Like,
so there's even people who are traveling for vacation, right? Then if they're traveling,
totally, 100%. They need to go to a private hospital if you want to avoid it. And you're traveling with kids, go to a private hospital, pay the extra money. Like, please.
Or bring your kids' shot records with you if they've already been immunized in the States, because who wants them to be immunized twice just because you can't?
Right.
So travel with that, with a copy of that. I mean, that's good information for people, because I don't even know that I knew that, right? So is the age like 18?
I believe so. I believe as soon as they're an adult, they're considered, free to the world, kind of like, now you're past that, needing the protector or whatever they consider themselves. But yeah, so that is definitely really important. And I've seen a lot of families get in a lot of trouble because of that. So it's something that is very important for people to know. So have records, and then, don't go into the public hospitals if you're not willing to deal with that. And, and do not give birth here if that's a major thing for you, which it was for me too. Like, I didn't plan on having a cesarean, but it came down to that. And here I am. So I'm on the other side. But like, if that's like a make it or break it for you, and you think that you're just going to have a baby and you're going to get your citizenship because you get permanent residency when you have a baby in Costa Rica, wonderful. And if you don't want those shots, do not step into the hospitals. And then if you don't, then you need to have a doctor's note saying that the doctor was present at your birth, because if you don't, they're not going to give you the registration that you need to be able to get your birth certificates, your passports for your baby. Like, it's a huge deal, and it's not one to be taken lightly.
Let's go back to your first birth first. And so I don't think that you knew any of this then, right? So you had your midwife come in from Hawaii a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, my midwife wrote me a letter saying she was there and yada da, and I came into the office in San Isidro and I was like, here you go. And I had my 2 witnesses, which you need, Costa Ricans, and I had my paperwork from my midwife, and they said, no, thank you. You need to go back and you need to go to the hospital. You need to register there. Like, they were giving us all these steps. And I was like, whoa, if I go into a hospital, I know what's going to happen. So I went to a local doctor that I had a really great relationship with, and I saw him for prenatal visits. So he was, we were on good terms, and he knew what I was all about. He's a really unusual doctor, let's say. And so he was willing to put up a piece of paper for me saying that he was there. And so I came in with that to K-Post, and they just looked at it, and it was literally just one check mark. Doctor present. That is it.
Ideally, so in case of any emergencies, that will get thrown out the window. But other than that, you did good. So now you have 2 girls and a boy.
Yes.
So your oldest is a girl and your youngest is a girl, and then your middle is a boy, and then his oldest is a girl also.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Cool. So I would assume that's why you guys are in California right now, because like it's the holidays, you get to hang out with family.
Totally. And that's a big thing about Costa Rica is like, that's the other thing. Like we still have our priorities and we still have our values, and our families were always top of those priorities and top of those values. So now we just need to be really, we need to think of unusual ways to be able to do that, because in Costa Rica, obviously, like our costs of living are different. Like plane tickets, let's be honest, they're really expensive. Renting houses, renting cars, all these things are massively expensive. And it actually brings me up to my next point. So what we do to be able to visit family and to be able to live the life of still travel and all that, because the travel bug still not out of me, weirdly enough, with a family, a huge family, we're still traveling.
Because you didn't get your vaccine in Costa Rica against that travel bug.
I didn't. They should make one of those. But anyway, so what we do is we have a program that we love, and it's called Home Exchange. And Home Exchange has changed our lives for the better. We've been with them for 8 years. And for all those listeners out there, I will have a special handout for you guys with my reference, so we can stay in touch on the Home Exchange platform, and you can see more about it. You get
I'll drop all of those links in the show notes below, so you guys all go, oh my God, how do we find her? It'll all be down below. Just find it.
Totally. And so what happens, we signed up for 8 years ago. We started with Home Exchange when we just wanted to do like a quick trip in Costa Rica. We had no idea that 8 years later, we'd be 111 exchanges deep.
Wow.
We've hosted over 63 people now, and over 50 traveling ourselves to other people's homes. And so what it looks like is basically it's a home exchange platform, and you can do different kinds of home exchange. You can either say, hey, Robin, I want to go to your house. Do you want to go to my house? And we both say yes, and we go at the same time, easy peasy. But Robin, you might want to go somewhere completely different, right? So then what happens is that we both have guest points, and you get guest points for just signing up. You get like over 1,000 points, which allows you to make your first trip. And also by hosting people, every time that you go on a vacation to your family home and you have somewhere to stay, your house is open, you have guests come, they give you points. And then you can use those points for your next vacation when you go somewhere different where you don't have family, where you want to create your own thing, right? And so that way, it's like a platform that keeps giving. It's like Airbnb, but like way more personable, much more community. It's all about trust and willingness. Like you have to be able to be open enough to receive people in your home, which for some people is a big deal, and to trust it's going to be okay, and to have that experience elsewhere as well, right? To be open. We've had car exchanges, we've had bikes, we've lived on a boat, we've done our wedding on Home Exchange. We had a 35-person wedding at a Home Exchange. It was amazing. Like we've had numerous birthday parties, family get-togethers and reunions. Like it's been a really long list of amazing things. And so for me, like I would never just move to Costa Rica and just sell all my things. And well, I did when I was younger, but at this point in my life, when you have a family, when you have things, it becomes different. One of the biggest takeaways I want to really emphasize on is try it before you buy it with Costa Rica. Try living that lifestyle first, because if you change your mind, if it's not for you, you have something to go back to instead of trying to go from scratch and rebuilding your empire that you just sold for, a massive sale price.
Yeah. Pennies.
Pennies. Exactly. So what you need to do is you need to try it. So there's lots of home exchanges in Costa Rica. And so get in touch with them, see if they want to come to your home, or start opening your home when it's available and acquire guest points, and then go and try it first and see how long you last and see if you love it, because you might not, and you might love it. And if you do love it, you're in a local's home. You have all the resources. You have a personal connection. You may have a car. You may have all the toys that you need, the crib you need, whatever you need to make your stay comfortable. and you're not spending crazy amounts of money on Airbnb.
Right.
Now, to me, that's like the best way to try it and to really see if it's for you or not, you know? And then from there, if you do want to make a move, great, pack up, make the move, but like stay at least a year first if you can. And, you know, even if you're just in a home exchange for a few weeks while you scout things out, while you get that rental for the first year, do it, because otherwise you might regret it later. And I've seen plenty of people regret their choices. It's not for everyone. Like I said, the hards are harder, but some people love it. And it's a great way to try it.
I love it. I love it. Luba, thank you for your time today. Like, I love you giving so much great information to anybody who's listening. If you're considering moving to Costa Rica and you're like, I'm on the fence, should I do it? I've never been there. First of all, determine what part of the country you want to be in. Are you a mountain person? Are you a beach person? Do you like the city? Do you not like the city? Like, where do you like to be? Where's your happy place? Do you hate traffic? You know, those are the things. Are you okay with limited internet and your electricity going off randomly? If those inconveniences don't bother you, then, you know, then you can look for a place that doesn't have the solid infrastructure, but it has other things that just really entice you. I would just recommend that you share this podcast with anybody that you know is considering moving, having kids there, considering moving and having little kids they're going to bring with them down there. There's so much good information in this podcast. And Luba, on the home exchange thing, I'm super excited about that. You guys click that link below and check out her listing and her account on there. And then by all means, absolutely test it out. We leased a place in Vida for a year before we had decided like where we want to be, where we don't want to be. That was us deciding whether we want to be in the southern zone. So she's right. Test it out. You don't want to just go in blindly and go, oh my gosh, I just gave away everything. And that was my favorite framed photo of Billy Joel. And now I gave it away in a yard sale for 50 cents, you know, and now I don't have it back. And so, literally share this podcast with whomever, subscribe down below. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments below too. And I will make sure that Luba gets them. But for everybody else, Pura Vida.
And I want to say a couple more things here before we wrap up. So if you are on home exchange, you can look up our listings because so the hotel that I was talking about that I was living in, it's called Colinas Tinamastes, Colinas, Tinamastes, Tinamastes, Mastes. And so the really rad part about Colinas Tinamastes is that we accept guest points. Yes, we do. So you can actually come and try Tinamastes, which is my favorite place right now in Costa Rica for sure. And I've been all around. The reason I love that community is because it's a little bit up the mountain. It's about 25 minutes away from the ocean. So you have that cool breeze. And we have the most amazing caretakers that will make you feel like home. We have quite a bit of we have 6 hotel rooms open, 3 casitas, 2 apartments. So you can try it and see what you feel. And it definitely has that community vibe to it. So it's really nice with we do dinners together sometimes and there's a shared pool and jacuzzi and you get to know your neighbor kind of feeling. Like kids are free range in that property, which is amazing. That's how I want to raise my kids. They run around, they're excited to see each other. And, you know, it's quite a fantastic place. And the other thing that I suggest is always take a look at scouting trips are really important. Another great area to consider is the Rivas area, which is beside Chiripo. Mm-hmm. And I have a great rental there, and I will pop the link for this one as well. Not just Colinas Tinamastes, but for this link, it's called Roca Verde Retreat. And it's the most unique, amazing property I've ever seen. It basically, Robert is the owner of the property, and I manage the Airbnb and all of that. So I will drop the link for that for our website, Roca Verde Retreat. And he built a house around 4 boulders, huge giant rocks. So the living room is right in the giant area, and there's a waterfall there and 2 bedrooms overlooking the river. And it's so gorgeous. So if you want to scout out the area, it's a great place to stay. And it's just, again, that's what you want to do. You want to go into places that are unique to you, that might feel good, that whatever you're looking for, up the mountain is cooler. There's less expats. Things are not as developed. And it's just a really great area to explore. So I'll drop we'll have the links to Roca Verde Retreat, Colinas Tinamastes and Tinamastes, as well as the home exchange platform. And last but not least, one of the biggest things that you need to do is you need to start learning Spanish. No joke. Okay. Please don't be one of those expats that is going to be like, I'm never going to use Spanish. You need to learn some Spanish, like even if it's some basic. And with a Roca Verde retreat,
I'm on day 767 of Duolingo.
You go. If Duolingo is great. I love it.
It's all right.
Also, what I would suggest though is I would just suggest some private classes. And with my contact, maybe I'll just drop my WhatsApp link directly as well as one of the links. Contact me because I have an amazing teacher who we've been with a long time, and she does online classes, and your first class is just $5 an hour.
Oh, wow.
It's so affordable. She's a native Costa Rican speaker. She's been MEP certified, and MEP is the Costa Rican school here for 10 years. She's been teaching kids, and now she wants to do online because she wants to just do her own thing. She's a grandma, she doesn't want to be part of the school system. So she's so excited. And the reason that I recommend private classes is because not only are you learning the language, you're learning the culture, which is so important. You can't just come in and pretend that their culture doesn't exist. Like, we need to love their culture. We want to add to it. We don't want to take away from it and put our own things on them, right?
Right.
So by taking private classes, not only are you expanding your knowledge of the language, but you're actually getting to know the people. And that's the most important part, because family is huge in Costa Rica. It's all about family and connection. You don't have a business meeting unless you know the person's grandmother's name. Like, that's just how it works. And if you don't, then they're not going to really take you as seriously or to heart as they would if you actually knew about them. So that's why I recommend that as well. So hit me up for the contact for Cecilia. She's awesome. And for any other resources, I'll drop in my WhatsApp, and I'd love to get connected for whoever needs some help.
Absolutely. And I will reach out to Cecilia too, because I know that even though like I'm on an app learning it, like the conversational part of it back and forth is probably the part that I struggle with the most. Like, I'm the one that slows down the app so I can hear the words one at a time, because there's those little tiny words they'll smush in the middle of there. And I'm like, I didn't even hear that there was the in there. So
Totally.
Yeah.
She lived in the States for 10 years. So her English is superb, and she's certified, in everything. So it's a really great way to be able to bring your Spanish up. My Spanish is actually pretty good now after 10 years. Remember how I said, yes, I speak Spanish? Sí.
And now you know. Thank you.
Todo bien.
Everybody remember to subscribe. Click every link that I put down below there and check out all of these wonderful properties. I can't wait to actually look at them myself. And I will hook up with you in person when I'm in Costa Rica. I'll be there really soon. I'd love to just meet up face to face and say hello. Yeah. I know you're in the States and I'm in the States right now, but everybody, we're actually recording this the week of Thanksgiving in the U.S. It's the week of Thanksgiving in the U.S. So I don't know when you're watching it. So either way, have a great holiday, and we look forward to 2025.
Yes. Super grateful for you guys. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.